Hi everyone, this is Khadija Naurin, and in this video I'm going to take you through an analysis of GDP prediction using a multiple regression model. So we will be having guidance on the fitting of modeling by interpreting coefficients, hypothesis testing, and analyzing the goodness of fit. So basically, what is multiple regression analysis or multiple regression model? So it is a method used in statistics to predict the outcome of regressand or dependent variable using two or more regressors or independent variables. I hope you all know the difference between linear and multiple regression models. So without any further delay, let's move on to the data set and its analysis. We have a data set including 4 regressors and 1 regression, and it is GDP, and the 4 independent variables includes unemployment rate, which is in percentage terms, and as well as interest rate is in percentage terms, and then imports and exports we can see that is in billion-dollar terms. And the dependent variable, which is GDP, is also in billion-dollar terms. So let's move on to the summary output. So we have the first regression statistics, which includes multiple R square, adjusted R square, standard error, with 26 observations. So when it comes to the R square, it is shown that there is 0.998704, which indicates that approximately 99.87% or 87% of the variance in the dependent variable is explained by independent variables, which means it is an excellent fit to the model, as it is really nearby 100%. So the next one is adjusted R square, which is 0.998457. So this value accounts for the number of predictors in the model and is slightly lower than R square, but about nearly 100%. So, but still it is very high, indicating that the model is robust and effective in explaining the variation in the dependent variable. So the standard error is 150.9325, which also is understandable that the regression statistics is really fit to the model. As we all know that lower standard error indicates a better fit of the model to the data. So next we have a table of ANOVA, and it shows the statistical significance of our model. The most important figure in this context is the significance of the F test, or the significance F, which is probably that all regression coefficients are 0. In other words, we test the statistical significance of the entire model. When the significance F is smaller than 0.05, we reject the null hypothesis that all coefficients are 0, and we can say that the model is statistically significant. So first and foremost, we want to say that the model is significant or not. As we see, the overall significance of the model is 5.53 minus 30, which is, yes, this model is significant, statistically significant. As we all know that it is lower than 0.05. So we have to look at their actual variables and their p-values to know more about the significance. So moving on to the next slides, we have individual coefficient tables, including its intercept. So it is shown that unemployment rate with minus 102.362, which means it is negatively affected to the GDP, which is the dependent variable. Also, in other words, we can say this coefficient suggests that for each 1 unit increase in the rate of unemployment, the dependent variable decreases by approximately 102.36 units, holding all other variables constant. That means we know that the unemployment rate is negatively impacting the GDP rate of our country, and it is possibly understandable from the figures of values. So the p-value, when it comes to the individual p-value, it is 0.0176, which indicates that this relationship is statistically significant at the 0.05 level. Likewise, when it comes to the interest rate, it also impacts the economy negatively by minus 222 or 222.866, which indicates that for each 1 unit increase in the rate of interest, the dependent variable decreases by approximately 222.87 units. Also, the p-value 7.03e minus 0.7 shows that this effect is highly significant, highly statistically significant, suggesting a strong relationship. And then we're gonna have imports and exports, where imports value comes as 1.307531, which implies that for each 1 unit increase in the rate of imports, the dependent variable increases by approximately 1.31 units. And the p-value 0.002198 indicates that this relationship is also statistically significant. And when it comes to the exports, its coefficient comes as 1.005492, which also suggests that for each 1 unit increase in the rate of exports, the dependent variable increases by approximately 1.01 units, which is also really significant, as the p-value 0.007955 indicates that its effect it is lower than 0.05. So in terms of each variables, it is highly understandable that the model is highly statistically significant to each other. So moving on to the next slide, we have an overall summary. It is understandable that the multiple regression model shows a strong statistically significant relationship between the independent variables. We know that unemployment rate, interest rate, imports, exports, and the dependent variable, or the regressant GDP. With a high R-square value, the model explains nearly all variability in GDP. Unemployment rate and the interest rate negatively impact GDP, while imports and exports have positive effects. This analysis confirms that the chosen variables are effective predictors of GDP. So next we have a question as an example for the model. So just imagine that what would be the estimated GDP value if the country had the rate of unemployment as 5% and interest rate of 2%, and import worth 500 billion, where export worth 450 billion. So we're gonna substitute all the values into the equation. There y is the regressant, is equals 11908.04 minus 102.36 into 5 minus 222.87 into 2 plus 1.31 into 500 plus 1.01 into 450. So the answer becomes $12,060 billion. From the result, it is clear that despite the negative effects of higher unemployment and interest rates, the positive impact of higher imports and exports leads to a projected GDP of $12,060 billion under these conditions. So that's all about the multiple regression analysis. Thank you for listening.